So,
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Let me
Hi,
just.
Sammy.
Hey, Sammy.
Hey, Sammy.
Hey, sorry I'm a little late. I was struggling to find a link, but
We're just about to start, so you're right on time, I guess.
Yeah, it was perfect.
awesome.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello.
Anybody who didn't have a chance, we're putting social media contacts in the chat. And so please do that. And also Sydney put a link to her virtual 10-minute film play festival in the chat also. So we've got that going on. And anybody else that's doing anything, let's share that as well, support each other. I think that I'm passing this over to, to me. Okay, so I'm the one that's starting. For those of you who don't know, I'm Barry Hochwald Caniola, and I'm going to first share a very short video, which is under 4 minutes long, that was cut out of the 2-hour event that we all did, many of us did in July. And it'll give you an idea of how some of the art, not all of it, of that day was used to look at the theme. And the theme of that day was why I love, hate, or am without voting. And so this will sort of give you an idea of what we've been doing and what we are going to do again. And this time I will remember to share my sound. What we're going to be doing again in on August 30th. So this is not what we want, because then we'll be looking at ourselves, and we don't want this. We want a better structure. Here we go.
I think that you...
planning this project initially changed a lot.
I think the wrong screen is shared, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The wrong screen?
Yeah, we're looking at Facebook.
You're looking at Facebook. Why is it that I can never get anything right with this?
It's technology.
Trial and error. Trial and
All I have is trial and error here. Why are you looking at Facebook? All right, let's close Facebook. We don't want that. And we do want this. And if anyone ever wants to volunteer to be my technician, yeah, that would be good. So, no, actually, I just want to get better at this. For those of you who don't know me, this is the way you're meeting me. Okay, so let's try it again. Share screen, share that screen, share that screen. How's this?
Perfect.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Carrington.
Joining this project initially changed a lot, because before this project, I can't say that I viewed voting as anything at all. I didn't really have an opinion because it wasn't really exposed to me much. And I was just I couldn't even be confused because I didn't even know where to start.
Where does the vote sit with engaged citizenship and with healthy community, which is what we are very much focused on at the Global Theater Project. So this is why we took on this project, why we created this project, and where it goes really does have a lot to do with you.
So all of the artists who are sharing tonight created their work research, and they had the intention to help us all take an honest look at why we vote, which is really important. And so when we start to look at the art, that's what we're going to ask you to do as well when we're like watching it. To really be curious and really pay attention to see where you connect to where they are exploring, the artists themselves, and to see where you get passionate or where you want to know more, right?
This has caused some confusion as lawmakers sympathetic to the cause try to see how they can stop it. That's why I wanted to talk to you about that. He's the president of Colors Change, the largest civil rights advocacy organization.
My vote is not for me, but for the child who sits in school, who can't yet dismantle those who rule, but deserves more than what they've been issued. The one who can't focus, deportation on his brain.
I realized that decisions were being made behind my back. That's what I'd like to say, but maybe that's not the case. These decisions were made right in front of me, but covered, masked, and disguised by a social aura that somehow let me believe that my voice didn't matter.
Showing like the progression and the steps taken to make voting like fair for everyone.
Anyway, I'm confused about voting. Like, I hate how they make us claim a party and I have to give them all my information and I just don't even know what a ballot looks like. Well, honey, it's time for the talk. But we already had that talk. Yeah, well, there's another one.
But I just have like a lot of different thoughts that run through my head when I think about voting and social issues just as a whole.
Can you hear the sound of your silence? In the creaking wood of a bridge about to fall. It's been breaking so long, it's now comfortable.
We're not here to discuss politics. We're here to go deeper than that. We're here to talk about how we fit into the social structure that is currently the United States and how we can participate in our community through our relationship to our own vote as a step to creating a world that we want to live in.
So, that should stop. Great. So, for those of you who haven't, weren't participating in the last event, that's the structure of the next four, next three, I should say, including the one in August. Their responses to themes. And I just want to say really quickly, and then I'm going to pass it on to, I think, to Jamie. We started with ourselves. How do I feel about voting? And now we move into a whole other area, which has to do with our connection to history. We'll get to that later in this session. So I'm just glad that I have the opportunity to be with people who were here before and who are new. And that is terribly exciting. So we will deepen our understanding of what this process is about and get to know each other a little better, and then what we're headed toward and the intention. And we'll start by getting to know one another. So I think that is Jamie.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Jamie, and I would like to start off by getting to know each other a little better, and that includes names, an icebreaker, and I'm going to throw pronouns in there too because I know we did that last time. So our icebreaker tonight in preparation for a theme for our event coming up is, in one sentence, describe what you think motivated groups to fight for their right to vote. So I'll begin. My name is Jamie. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I believe that these groups fought for the right to vote in order to make America a country that was full of everybody's voice. So I'm going to pass it off to Sam.
I'm Sam, or Samantha, she, her, and I think accountability definitely plays a big part, and that's what motivates, like, at least me to vote, like to hold the people in charge accountable and for change. So yeah. And do you want to go next? No. Because you're right here. Okay.
So come on, you gotta go.
I don't have a thought. It's okay, just share your name then. Okay, I'm Amanda. My pronouns are she, her, and I don't have a response to that last part yet, but I'll think about it.
Well, what would motivate you to vote? Like, why would you vote, maybe?
To make change.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Thank you. Sorry, my cat is currently trying to jump in the window. Who is next? Can I get Caitlin on the mic?
Sure. I'm Caitlin, and I think what motivates different groups of people to vote or to fight for their right to be able to vote is that desire to have the power that comes behind, kind of like what you said, Jamie, and also Sam, like the power that comes behind having a say in what happens with the country that you're living in and the society that you're living in. And there's so many groups of people that don't have that power yet, or they have the power but not quite in the actual sense. So I think just what motivates people to fight for it, and for the people who can vote, what motivates them to continue voting is to just continue on that ability to vote and that power to make that change, like Amanda was saying.
So while you were speaking, I also realized that by calling people by name, I'm doing the purpose of having to I'm going to let people jump in, but if I notice that somebody didn't go, I'll call you out and I'll make sure you go. So whoever would like to go next has the floor.
Okay, now. Okay. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, cool. I think that what motivated people to vote, different groups of people to vote when they didn't have the right to vote, I think that it was because they didn't have it, and they knew that if they did have it, they would have power and would be able to create change.
I can jump in. My name is Carrington, he, him, and I think that the motivation behind fighting for the right to vote, to have a say in state politics and things like that, because if like you're not voting, then politicians have no reason to like.
I can go next.
I can go. Okay, you go.
I'll go. Okay, I'll go. So my name's Brandon. My pronouns are he, him, and at least my like motivation to vote was like, kind of like, I really want to like protect people, and I want everyone to have like rights and to feel safe and secure. So I guess my vote is kind of just more of like a humanitarian type of vote. And I think that also motivates other people to vote too, is just that concern for other groups.
Prince, do you want to go?
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm Prince. He, him. The question was, why did people back in the day? I just think they probably would just wanted fairness, like so they just didn't want. They was like, man, this ain't fair, and a lot of people were saying, yeah, it ain't fair. So that's what I feel like. That's what they voted for.
All right, I'm watching y'all.
My name's Sammy. My pronouns are they, them. And I guess why I think people fought for the right to vote, I feel like the basis of it is like what founded America, if you think about it, because the whole reason we went into like the whole the Revolutionary War was because we were being taxed without representation, because we didn't have a say in things that like, you know, severely affected us. And I think as like we progressed into a country, like more and more people were like, yeah, no, I deserve to have a say. There needs to be an equal balance between the leaders of a country and its people. And that's sort of how I feel.
In case anybody didn't see, Eris said that there's a lot going on right now, but his name is Eris. His pronouns are he, him, and he thinks for some that the motivation to vote comes from the desire to fight for equity. It was very well said. All right, I have 2 more people on my radar. 3 more people on my radar.
I can go. Hi, I'm Sydney, she, her pronouns, and I think that lots of people realize, different groups of people like Native people, disabled people, Black people, etc., realize that if you aren't represented in your government, either locally or nationally, you will be ignored to death. And somebody a lot smarter than me said that, and I can't remember the quote of the person, but that's basically what the quote was.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go. My name is Eric, he, him, and well, what motivates me to vote is just I just really want to change sort of like the way sometimes our country is run, or like how things are right now, you know, change it for the better. Maybe vote out a particular politician you don't like and replace him with a better politician or something. But yeah.
Thanks. All right, 1 more.
Hi, I'm Charlotte, she, her pronouns, and I think there's a lot of things that people didn't have, and that's why they fought, but I also think that they fought because there was a lot that they did have, and I think having a voice that you know needs to be heard and having that confidence and kind of self-empowerment to be able to say that, you know, I deserve to be heard, and that once I am, better change will come, and that's why, you know, we need the vote. I think that that is like a great thing that people had and people still have today that really empowers them to put on that fight, because it's not an easy fight. So
Thanks so much. With that, I'm going to pass it off to my friend Khalifa, who is going to beg you to know just a little bit more about you.
Hello, it's me again. Before I didn't introduce myself, so I'm Khalifa and my pronouns are she and her. So my question is for all of you is, what brought you here? What motivated you to come here? And in like 1 minute or less, please, 1 minute or less. So yeah, I'll start by, well, I'm a part of the Our Voice Our Day group, and what motivated me to join it and to be a part of it is that I didn't know a lot about voting, and I feel like now I feel like I am more involved into it and learning about what I need to know about electing officials, and I'm more likely to tell my friends to get involved too, because it's important. So who would like to go?
I can go next. Oh, did you want to go, Sammy? No, okay. I think, well, I'm part of the Our Voice Our Day group as well, and I think what motivated me was just I was tired of being silent and like not having these conversations, because I think the more we do have these conversations and talk about it, and I think we talked about it a little bit last time about like normalizing these conversations, where it's just like, you know, it comes up in everyday topics and like it should be something we're talking about more. So I think the more I can learn and then, you know, teach my friends, teach my family, talk to them about it, like it really starts on an individual level, and then that's when it kind of expands to bigger groups. So, yeah.
Thank you. I guess for like why I'm here, I was really motivated to join specifically after I went to like the first one, and after I saw the art of like all these amazing talented people, I was like, oh my god, I can do that. Like, why am I not doing that? And plus, like, with all this time on my hands, I'm like, I should totally do that. Plus I work at Michael's, so if y'all need a discount on art supplies, I got you. But yeah, I wanted to, you know, I fell out of love with art, and this made me motivated to like have a reason to get back into it and, you know, make more. So
Awesome. Uh, my reason, I'm part of the group, the Arbor Society group as well, and I think my reason for sticking around and joining in the first place would be because I'm curious about like what could happen once everybody gets out there and voted, because like I know that our particular age group is not like represented fully. Like what would that look like if it was the case? And also like I think there's an awakening going on like right now with like so many things like breaking us out of our normal routine. I think people are more open to like receiving and like changing their lifestyle and things like that. So I think now's the perfect time to do this.
I think for me, joining this project and being able to work so closely on this project, I just feel the need to be a more involved citizen, if that makes sense. I feel the need to advocate for things and advocate for people that need to be advocated for. That, and I just like having a purpose behind my art. I mean, art for art's sake is very good in a way, but I felt this pull for a while to make my art cool in a different kind of way. So this is definitely a way for me to get on that track.
I'm here because I get the opportunity to use whatever I was born with to inspire anyone younger, anyone my age to vote, to be involved in these conversations, because anything else is like, what we really talking about? But and then I'm also here because I like, for me, this is like a feeding thing. I need to be fed. So with everyone in the community, with everyone saying whatever they feel, it inspires you to be like, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't, so that's why I'm here. I ain't got nothing else to do.
Anyone else?
I can talk now, so I can share. So I'm here because Barry sent me a very nice message and was like, come. And two, because I think voting is a privilege that not everyone takes. But also, if you do take voting as a privilege, I think people are kind of fighting for equality, which is a great thing. But right now, we need to be fighting for either equity or for justice. And I think if people don't realize that, and if they aren't aware of that when they go in to vote, then as a people, as citizens, we aren't really watching each other's backs. So yeah, that's also why I'm here.
Anyone else that hasn't gone? Brandon?
I can go next. So I am here because Jamie invited me. Thank you, Jamie. And also, I don't know. I feel like I'm not too informed about voting. Can you guys hear like the car horn? I'm sorry. But I feel like I'm not too informed about voting, so it'd be nice to learn about more. And also, I'd like to kind of see what you guys are like doing art-wise, because I'm an artist. I sing, I used to draw a lot. I want to get back into drawing, but it's be interesting to see kind of like what you guys do here. So 2 reasons.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Anyone else? Eric?
Well, I guess originally I was here because Caitlin also invited me. And at first I was a bit curious on what other people sort of thought about voting and all. And then eventually I knew I kind of wanted to learn more about other people's voices to at least understand why voting it really does change people's lives, even if it's just, sometimes insignificant though. So I'm mostly here to learn. So.
All right, it's always good. And Sydney?
Yeah, I can go. So I'm here because Barry invited me, and I knew anything that Global Theater Project does is going to have like a powerhouse group of people around it. So I was excited to like meet the new folks that are here and just listen and learn and kind of sit back and see what you guys are cooking up.
And Charlotte?
Yeah, well, my friend Sam told me about it. And, you know, I think voting is an issue that I'm really passionate about because it intersects so many other issues I'm really passionate about. And, you know, I've been involved in some voting on campus, but, you know, encouraging college students on a political campus to vote isn't the same as getting people outside of a college campus to vote. And I think that that's really where I feel most encouraged to lend people the tools to understand how important it is and how to make it happen. And so that's what I'm really passionate about.
Right. Okay, I think everyone went. So now I will pass it off to Barry now, so she can talk about the Global Theater Project.
Hey, I'm going to be brief. Basically, I want to say that this is the Global Theater Project, right? All of you. And we respond to the world we live in. And in a little bit, we'll break up into two groups and we'll get into the foundation of art for social renewal, which is we call the 4 pillars, artistry and community kindness and the whole artist elements. And we'll get into all of this. But this is really about relationship. The Global Theater Project is about relationship and being an awakened artist and human being of this planet, and then doing the very best we can with our resources and our community to help others, to help our neighbors be awakened and engaged human beings on this planet using their creativity and their intellect. And to help us figure out how to have better relationships. And I personally believe through my experience in Baltimore and in Florence and in Los Angeles with the basis of the Global Theater Project, where it was born in Florence in Italy, that we can heal this world if we heal the way we treat one another and are together. And that the arts have such a potential to do that. I lean toward theater because I'm a theater artist, but theater contains all other art forms. And so you can enliven all of those forms if there is meaning behind them and, intention and purpose. And as long as they are aligned to that, they become living things, extensions of you, or extensions of the community, extensions of your creativity and your intellect. And I did say this before, and I'll just say it again for those of you that weren't here. My intention is that this project, Our Voice, Our Day, is grounding us in such an amazing group of young artists who are speaking the same language, which is the 4 pillars, and slowly becoming more and more knowledgeable and experienced in them to create work and community engagement that brings attention to issues that I'm hoping that at the end of this series of events after Election Day, then we will gather again as the creative core, which is my vision for having a creative Peace Corps, in a sense, to infiltrate the world with this work on issues that matter to us and matter to our communities through a replicable process so that we can go out and support one another and change the world together, hand in hand. So that's my big vision. But first we need to aim toward November 3rd. So we'll talk more as we go. I think now what we're gonna do is break into 2 groups. People who know this work or did it last time can come with me into a breakout group and we'll talk a lot more specifically and deeply. And then I call them KJKK as opposed to J and the KKK. So I don't like that. So Khalifa and Jamie and Caitlin and Carrington will stay with all of you that are not knowledgeable of the 4 pillars. I'm thinking, Sammy, even though you have not created work last time, you're welcome to come into the breakout group with me if you want, since you did study with me for a whole semester, but that's your choice. You can choose. Let me know what you want to do. So that would make me and Prince and Samantha and Sam pop off into a breakout group. Sammy, do you want to come with us, or do you want to stay here with the larger group?
I'm thinking I need a little bit of a refresher, so I'm gonna stay with the larger group if that's cool.
So I'm gonna take Samantha. Do you want to come or do you want to stay? Because Amanda, what do you want to do, Amanda?
I think we should stay as well, just so she can kind of get caught up.
Prince, it's you and me, baby. Okay. All right, so we will see you guys in like 30 minutes, okay? And then we'll be back and we'll come back together and we will talk about the theme. So let me just get me and Prince in here. How do I put myself in? I'll send you in a room and then we'll see what happens. So,
okay.
He's just not alone in there.
So he should go. Yeah. And I'm getting Jamie. Okay, there you go. I'll see you guys soon.
I was about to say, I thought I was in here by myself.
No. So I need to check Facebook because I want to make sure that that they're still
Recording over there.
they're all meeting.
Okay.
I think they are. Wait, you're gone, and now I'm gone. Oh, and it's. Oh, okay. No, they're good. They're doing their thing. Okay. I just don't. Sometimes I don't know how this thing works. So we have half an hour. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited because I'm excited on this project. I really am. I keep meeting these amazing people and they keep saying such intelligent, fabulous things and making work. And I did tell you how much I loved what you did, right? Last time.
Yeah, we spoke.
Because it's, that's right, we did. Because it's, you really took the conversation we had and you applied it to the, it's like you gave the experience of it. It was really very deeply thought through, actually.
Thanks.
Yeah, it really was. So I just wanted to go through this again, maybe a little bit more, so maybe the best way to do it, since it's just you and me, is how did you, like when you thought of that experience, how did you fold in, like what elements of the 4 pillars did you fold in and maybe one, was there one more than another? Was there, from our conversation, what did you utilize?
Hold on, say it again.
From our conversation on like the 4 pillars.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're frozen. There you are. Well, you're sort of frozen because I can see that your name is not.
You see me?
There you are.
All right. Repeat what you said because it was chippy.
Chippy. So my question is, what of the 4 pillars? When we talked about the 4 pillars, what did you consciously use in the event, in the experience you created?
Okay. Well, so we spoke and you told me like the 4 pillars and I knew them, but I needed to know them again. So I was looking and said kindness, the community, the artistry, and then the 7 elements. This was all from the conversation that we had that day that me and you spoke. Yeah. So after this day, I didn't touch on it, but I wrote so much on it. I said, well, hold on, that's the world. Let me be in the booth. That be actually voting. Okay, let's vote. Oh, so in that whole thing, on the 7th, what was it? Artistry? What's artistry? You said something. It said experience.
I think I said that that artistry is obviously a creativity, but it's also the attention that you bring something so that it has a high level of engagement for you and detail, so that there's real thought put into every element of it.
Right. Because I'm trying to read my handwriting. I don't know if I wrote experience or exposure. But anyway, I said every human being, then a sip and paint. So anyway, and that's a Berry View. Then this is Berry View, or it could be like educate. Anyway, to answer your question, because that's a real good question. I just knew it had to involve engaging with each other, not on no dictator stuff. It's like, let's talk about it, like let's vote. It just took me back to like elementary school. So I went to work and I asked this one girl, I just was like, so what would you blah 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 blah. And then she was saying what she was saying. And this was actually the day of the performance. And I wrote it up because I couldn't find what I really wanted, how I really wanted to engage, because it was all 4 things that I had to be mindful of, like kindness, with the acceptance, the work, art, the community. What else did I write? It's so much that I wrote on this paper, but then I was like, I don't know what to do. Anyway, I don't know where that paper is. I actually wrote it and then read it and then did it. But it was just, I thought about those 4 things, but then the 7 whole artists, I know it's 7 whole artist elements, right? And it's the hunger, the passion, the connecting, the knowledge, the sensual development. So some of those things that you said, like the senses, like could you make them, you know, how people could do with their art? Could you make them taste or hear? I don't know. All that was just in what I was like, I wanted to, and then Carrington, he did exactly what I wanted him to do, because like he really did what I wanted him to do. And I said it, I wrote it before he said it, and you know, before I practiced it, I said, if somebody asks, this is confusing, this is what you, because I knew it was confusing too when I was trying to do the voting system. Like I was trying to set up the voting system, and I actually wrote something. Okay, can I look at it real quick? Can I try to find it real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, hold on. This is not gonna lose connection. Just wait.
Okay.
Hold on. Cause I wrote it in my notes. What day was that? Was that 7? No. What was it?
I think it was like the 18th or the 17th.
17th of July. Okay.
I think so.
Okay, I'm about to find it right here. Why the 18th? Hold on. Okay, hold on, people. No, if I voted. Okay. No, not that. Okay, yeah, I'm confused about voting. Why would I vote when I have? Yeah, so I started writing this. This was the actual thing. I was like, why would I vote? I have no choice for real. This is my question. That's what I wrote to myself. But this other notes I wrote to myself, if you voted for you have a choice who you choose. That's why I'm confused about voting. This doesn't have none of that. None of that doesn't have none of this. Or does it? Does this have that? And does that have this? Because essentially, we wouldn't be voting because this is that. And then, like, the lesser evil, then I wrote the lesser evil out of the two if they both on the same dragon it ain't lesser or more. Like, anyway, I wrote that, and when I was doing it, I was like, man, this is why voting is confusing. But then I was like, this system is confusing. And then I wrote something else to say, if somebody were to say, like, I know I didn't say anything. We really don't. When that whole thing I wanted to get to, but I knew I couldn't talk that much. I wanted to get to, like, you see, you like third eye, like stepping out, like just stepping out like a fly on the wall type at the party. It's like, do you see how we got a choice? But then I said it on the last voting thing. I said, do you have a choice or a voice? And then it's like, yes, you have a voice, but then you're saying no, that you don't have a choice. Like, I don't know. It was just, when I was thinking, like how I'm talking right now, it's just the tone and how this is why I was thinking about the 4 pillars, this community, because you don't want to, that's why I like to choose my words. Like, it's difficult, you practice it, but you don't want to say, I'm trying to tell you. I don't want to say I'm trying to tell you, because then it's like, come on, what telling, I'm speaking with, so that's what I'm thinking with community. So I'm not thinking I'm trying to tell them, I want them to see it. And it's like, I'm not trying to tell them, I want them to see it. And that's why I thought about the community. And then the artistry is like, how can I get them to see it? And it's like a gift that I have is to just, it make it feel like it's lighthearted. I can make it feel like it's lighthearted, or I can make it feel like. So I was like, no, this is community. If this was like a campfire, you want everybody to listen to the story and what you have to say, I mean, but anyway, I don't know if that even touched this this big question.
No, it does. It does, because what you're saying. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. Yes. 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 All right. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, Barry.
No, it does, because basically what you're saying is that you ended up using community in a really caring way. So you actually did kindness as well, because you were thinking about, how do I engage with the group so they have an independent experience that I want them to have. I want to take them down this path, but I don't want to push them there. I want to I want them to have this experience. So how can I do it in a way that isn't, aggressive, like telling them? So so that's a sense of kindness in there also, kindness and community, and then also artistry, in terms of really, you looked at your own self and you thought, well, what gifts do I have, and how, what's the way that I can utilize them so that it can really make an impact? And so those things were touched on. And then in the whole artist elements, you did, like, you made them listen, because you were confusing them. So you made them have to lean in further and use their hearing and their brain to try to figure out what was going on, and then also to involve their body in terms of, typing, writing a response. So all of that is sort of sensual in a sense. And then, that connected everyone as a group, because it was all this participation. So that's connectivity and curiosity, as to like, well, what's happening here? I want to understand more. So you were like firing up on some of these aspects, right, of the 4 pillars, and bringing your energy, in a sense, bringing their energy out of them because of what you created. So it was this dynamic, which was fabulous. And so I just wanted to kind of take some time to look at it like that, so that the next time you create something, which of course I hope you're going to, that you have like a deeper understanding of how of what the possibilities are. Like I really do think that kindness worked into that, because a lot of people will say, I need to create this experience, so I'm going to tell them, and you were very clear that you didn't want to do that. So that is actually a kind act. It's respecting them and giving them space to figure something out on their own or experiencing on their own. That is a deeper level of kindness, and an application as an artist, I think, to your audience. And that's respectful, and that's kind of, and there's gentleness in there. So that's where that kindness was really motivated. And then in terms of community, there were like multiple things, because you applied kindness to allow them to have a sense of freedom, but then you gave them all a singular task. So that brought them together, both in what they had to do, which was the chat, and then in their thinking with the questions. So it made them all become a unit to, number one, try to figure out what the heck Prince was talking about in the beginning, right? And then once they did, once they were getting it, it was a group experience on this subject. They didn't know where they were going, but they trusted you and they trusted each other to go on this journey toward the end, which at the end, obviously, was a fabulous end that they got to, because you created this direction through questioning, not through directing, and they could get there with you and for you. So that was where community was applied even deeper. And then in terms of artistry, yes, definitely the choice you made to be light about it, and your sense of energy was, as it can be, was infectious. But it was also the questions that you were asking have a level of artistry to them, right? I mean, they went from A to Z. And so that's the only reason that this group could at the end say we, us, they wouldn't have if you hadn't put some consciousness into, it wasn't just random questioning. You really thought about the vote. You thought about what is the experience of the vote? How can I replicate that in this project? So that's all like deeper level artistry applied to, to your work. So that is all how those things all engage together. Then you go into whole artist elements, and that's really something that's deeper about all of the things that when we make work, take into account, like curiosity. And that, again, and I'm just pointing all this out so that when you approach something new, you'll see that you already have incorporated all this. When you went into questions, you asked a friend, you asked yourself, that's where curiosity, went into play. And then you applied curiosity to the project itself. I have a question for you guys. Here's here's what I want you to think about. So that was really beautifully applied. So there's that. Then there's another one is passion. So you had a sense of passion for this question, which, brought you to a level, I think, that was allowing your artistry to rise, because your passion to figure it out and your passion to understand it better helped you form the questions and the structure of the experience that you made. And then connectivity, you connected yourself to this, to these questions, to your core question, and then to the group, and you allowed them to do the same. So they got to experience voting through the mind of Prince in a way that connected them to voting in a different way. And that was really awesome. So then this question of hunger has to do with when we get information, what more do we need to know? You know, like this gray area that we stay in where we're like, all right, it's not A or B, there's something in between here. And what is that? You kind of created a gray area. I mean, that's what that was. Like, I don't quite understand what's going on, but I understand this piece. And they kept wanting to know more. And they got to the point where they were okay about not knowing, which is awesome. Because they trusted you. And that's that hunger part. They didn't go this way. They leaned in, even though they didn't know what was going on. And that's hunger. Courage was, I don't think was as applicable, and that's fine. You know, I mean, can't always hit all of them, because courage really has to do with having the bravery to look at social truths, let's say, or personal issues, and go deeper, you know, not run. And I think that it could be found a lot in the theme for this month. Mm-hmm. And then central development we talked about, and I think that was all of them. So in that sense, I think that that's kind of where you went in this project with these 4 pillars, and how the whole point is that they're there to work with consciously. And the more you know them and the more you play with them, they're like a foundation to stand on. You know, and they're for you and they're for them. And the more you can activate them in yourself and in them, the more rich and full of potential the experiences of sharing your art, whatever the art is. Whether it's a painting or it's an experiential thing like we just did, you did. Does that make sense? Everything I said?
Yeah. I'm amazed that you got that from that. I didn't know. I didn't really know I touched on all of them, but I did write it, read it. I mean, I guess it was just, well, it's just great that you've seen it like that. But like we said now, I can go deeper, like with other things, with the same thing, but the foundation, it makes sense. Yeah, everything made sense, what you were saying, because it's like, now from where I was when I wrote this, meaning the notes, to now, it's like, okay, with the feedback, it's like, okay, I was on the right path. It looks like, so now I'm like, okay, good. So yes, I understand. I understand. I want to go deeper, because just to know that, I was like, I didn't know how it was gonna read, but I had faith. I had faith that it would, and I'm glad it did come out like that. I'm glad you read it like that, so I know what worked, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think for you, just, you know, like continual experiment, just see now the next thing you do to work with these things consciously.
Right. Right.
Right. They're in there. They're clear. They're in there. But now, what would happen if you know, like if you said, you know what, I really want to work on courage.
Right.
You know,
and really go in
connectivity or whatever, you know, or I really want to see how I can bring that out in them, or bring that in me, or
right,
all of us, and you know what that might mean.
Okay. No, I wrote it. I wrote that. It's to activate them and you.
Yeah.
Like, just make it. Yeah. like when you just explained that, I really was looking at it like on another plane, like how you seen that. That's just, and now that you just said you got to work with it consciously, it's just like, oh my goodness, it's like it is so much potential to. It really is. Like, I don't know why I didn't know that. I really don't know why I didn't know that, but even looking at the like just speaking, it's like, man, how can I even incorporate this into like drawing, like paint, like, you know, like how some people had paintings. And those paintings, I actually screenshotted a few. And someone's poem, I screenshotted that too, because I couldn't read it all at once during the thing. So like those things, and that's why when I first created it, or when I was creating it, I started off like, oh, I'm gonna do like a poem type thing. But then I was like, I don't want to do a poem, but I do want to have colorful language. Not knocking the poem, I just was like, you know. And then I was like, I still wanted to do the voting thing, because that whole thing is a thing, right? So.
Prince, I think Harrington's on the line. What do you call? Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, all right. We'll pop over. Thanks for calling. I'm sorry, Prince.
It's all right. It's all right.
I didn't know he was calling me. Anyway, so we're good then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll
right.
talk. We'll talk in between the
Yes,
time.
we will. All right.
Okay.
Let's leave.
Yeah, pop me back in there. Pop me back over there.
For all.
Let's go back over there.
Close all breakout rooms. No. Cancel that. We don't want to end the meeting. Leave the room.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I believe it's also affiliated with Creative Corpse, which is kind of Barry said before you came, her form of like a Peace Corps, but it's using art to make a social impact.
Got you.
Hey, I'm back.
Hey.
Awesome. We are just about to move forward and introduce the new topic and all that.
I just want to make sure that I brought Prince over with me. Is Prince here too?
I do not see him, but maybe he'll pop in like a minute. Sometimes it does that.
No, let me just make sure that I didn't leave him there by himself. Yeah, I think I did.
Oh no.
Okay. All right. I think he's he should be.
I'm here.
All right.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm back.
Sorry about that, Prince.
Welcome back.
I left you alone.
Yeah. I'm back.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, should I stop sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we doing now?
Right, so now we can introduce our new topic, which is going to be for the August 30th event, similar to last month. This month's event is, or similar to last month in structure, but new topic. So this month's event is going to be called The Long History of Sacrifice. Like we said just a minute ago, this is like acknowledging all those who have fought for the right to vote in the past, and different things like that. And we're all gonna introduce different specific parts of voting history. And I believe Caitlin can start us off.
Yes. So my topic is kind of the beginning in a way. I researched back when the founding fathers were deciding who was going to get to vote and who wasn't. And primarily this was when they were deciding if non-land owning white men should be allowed to vote. And their concern was that that the non-land owning voters, that they would overrule the land owning voters. And
And James Madison said this statement that I think exactly defines this. And so I'm just going to read that for you real quick. So James Madison said, "The regulation of it is, at the same time, a task of particular delicacy. Allow the right to vote exclusively to property owners, and the rights of persons may be oppressed. Extend it to equally to all, and the rights of property owners may be overruled by a majority without property." So I think this quote is very applicable to then, obviously, and now. And so they eventually decided that each state individually could decide who was going to get to vote and who wasn't. And naturally, because we are humans, that led to a lot of unfair voting practices. And there were large landowners that would allow non-landowning people to freeload, and then they would like pay them to vote a certain way or to not vote a certain way. So there's a lot of risky business going on. And that's about what I have. I just want to leave you guys with thinking about that quote by James Madison, because I think that can really spark a lot of thoughts in regards to what we're talking about here.
All right, so I can move on to what I have to bring to the table here. Also, for all the research that we're doing, we'll be trying to upload different links and things like that so that you can reference anything that you might find interesting. So I did a little bit of research on Indigenous history and Native American voting rights and different things in the past, and like what it took to get them there, get them the right to vote. So it kind of starts back in 1887. So government officials around that time thought that it was important to assimilate Native Americans into American culture before giving them enfranchisement and before giving them the right to vote. So with the Dawes Act of 1887, tribes were no longer considered a legal entity. There were different restrictions on the land that they were given, and there were the Indian boarding schools, which promoted the of Native life targeted at their children. So they would take their children into American schools, and it led to their culture being very much erased. Then you move forward to 1924, which is the Snyder Act. This gave Native Americans who were born in the US, even if they were born on a part of distributed land, gave them full citizenship. And that allowed them to take advantage of the 15th Amendment, which said that any US citizen could have the right to vote regardless of race. After that, you would think that they would have the right to vote, but unfortunately that was not the case. Like Caitlin said, states have a lot of power still in determining who can and cannot vote. The federal government can only do so much. So at that point, states still had the power to decide who gets to vote, and it took over 40 years for all 50 states to allow Native Americans to vote. The final state that allowed it was New Mexico in 1962. After that, many minority groups, Black Americans and many people in the minority group suffered from literacy tests, poll taxes, and intimidation because there was still just a lot of racism going around. And you can pretty much guess how that works out. Moving forward, I did a little bit of looking into today to see like what's going on. I know within the past year or so, there have been concerns about real ID and voter ID things because on the reservations, they don't have like permanent addresses in certain places. So I think in North Dakota, there was a huge issue about not having a permanent address on the reservation. And in order to vote, you have to write your permanent address on and have an idea with a permanent address. So that was just something systemic that prevented many Native Americans from voting. But yeah, I think that's all I have to share on that. And that's just like a taste of that part of voting history.
Okay. So, hello. I have the group of African Americans, and of course, we were in slavery, and then Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, so we were freed, and then to try to get slaves into more to be a citizen, they were gained citizenship on the 14th Amendment, and then on the 15th Amendment, they had to change it so that voting could not be denied to them or denied to people based off of race, color, or previous servitude. So it was 1862, they were freed, 1868, 14th Amendment, and then 1870, 2 years later, the 15th. So of course, because they were slaves before, a lot of people felt some type of way of them having the right to vote. So as the 15th Amendment came about, people were still trying to hold them down and oppress them by not allowing them to vote. So Jim Crow laws were created so that it would be hard for them. So like Carrington said, there were literacy tests and poll taxes and the grandfather clause. So like if you could vote if your grandfather voted back then, but of course, if you were a slave, then your grandfather didn't vote. You weren't able to vote.
That's what that is.
Yeah, and there was also voter intimidation, of course, with the Ku Klux Klan and other people just trying to like threaten people, like don't go out to the polls because we don't want you to vote or have a voice. And they knew that it was power. That's why they wanted to suppress them for so long. So voting is so powerful because there was so much violence towards it. That's how you know that it's really important to vote. And finally, in 1964, the 24th Amendment had outlawed the poll taxes, so they didn't have to pay to vote. And then in 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed, which removed the discriminatory barriers like the literacy test and all that were placed to prevent Black people from voting. So with all this information, I think that I will give you like a little snippet thing of what I came up with or what you could, I don't know, try for art with this. So I was writing a poem like a while ago, or I guess spoken word, you could say, but it included some of the information that I researched, and I kind of just elaborated it together. I'm gonna read some of it. It's not finished yet, so, okay. Can you hear us? I said, can you hear us? We couldn't vote, but now we can. We got what we needed, the power to change what we want, what's needed. On the 13th, we were freed, and on the 14th, we were made citizens, but what does that mean? Because we were freed and born here, we just had to be given some rights. We had to be giving something to them. We had to give something to them, right? On the 15th, Black men were finally given something, but not the love we needed from this country. So I'm working on that. So I think that's just how you could incorporate your research and like, curiosity, some of the 7 whole artist elements into whatever art you're creating and making that connection.
That was really beautiful, Khalifa. I don't want to follow that up. I feel like we should just end it here. I'm gonna actually share my screen with everybody because I created kind of like a timeline on my research. It's not full. I clicked choose your virtual background instead of share screen. It's not full of everything, but I want to kind of check marks because there's a lot going on here. You're looking at stuff that aren't that. Okay, do you only see that now? Does everybody see the little timeline? So the topic that I chose to research was, I don't want to call it the suffragette movement because as I've done research, I've realized that the suffragette movement really wasn't the entirety of women fighting for their right to vote because the suffragettes kind of had a lot of racism and there wasn't a lot of intersectionality there. So I'm going to call it how women earned the right to vote. So something I found that I thought was very interesting in my research was actually women started with the right to vote, not in the way that you thought of like, oh, all women can vote, but women who were widowed and owned property, which most who were did because they owned, their deceased husband's property, were able to vote. So Lydia Taft was the first woman to vote in the New York colonies. So yeah, she could vote. And you would think, and I made a typo, and you would think it would go swimmingly, but after that, women slowly started to lose their right to votes. So in 1777, women in New York colonies had their rights taken away from them. That's supposed to say 1777, not 1717. 1780, Massachusetts followed. 1785, New Hampshire followed. And then we get to 1807, where New Jersey women had their right taken away from them, but for a while they were the only women who still had it. So they passed a law that basically said only free white man can vote. So then we get to the 1800s. So in 1826, the first Women's Rights Convention was held. And this is where we get into the idea of the suffragette movement and this movement being kind of racist, or being actually racist, seeing as though no women of color were invited. The irony here is that the Women's Convention and the suffragette movement was actually inspired by the rallies and the movements that were held to abolish slavery. It was that same kind of energy, but they didn't want to include Black women. They didn't want to include women of color. And this was for a multitude of reasons. Some women believed that if they included them, that men in the South, basically the white men that would be making the laws, would not want to support them because of the racism in the South. Some believed that they should have the right to vote over Black men. So there was just a lot going on there. And that happened, like I said, in 1826. Around this time too, some women did have the right to vote. It was kind of sporadic. So 1838, women in Kentucky did have the right to vote. It was only if they were able to be taxed, and it was only if it was regarding taxes or schools. And like I said, the racism in the movement actually encouraged the start of the National Association of Colored Women, and that was founded in 1869, which was the same year that the 15th Amendment passed. And that basically gave all men the right to vote. There's obviously some conditions there. Some of my peers talked about it. There were just a lot of laws that were used to keep people of color from voting, even though they had the right to. A little bit before that, I spoke about it before, Sojourner Truth gave her anti-woman speech, which basically, I kind of mentioned it before, but Prince and Barry weren't here. A very infamous quote from that was, "If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it, the men better let them." So I think that's a very beautifully spoken thing, and I think it's such a good, highlight of this. Something else that was interesting was 1872, Susan B. Anthony was arrested for voting illegally in New York. She just kind of went out to a poll and voted, and she got arrested and she got fined, but it's kind of unfortunate, but she was also kind of racist, so I don't know how I feel with that one. And then we get into the 1900s. The 1900s is where, moving forward, things start to happen, and in the later half, we start to see women of color get the right to vote. So in 1913, there was the DC Women's Suffrage Parade, and what made that notable was Ida B. Wells made sure to involve a lot of women of color, and she brought a group to march, and they were pushed to the back, and they were ignored the entire time, and they were shouted at the entire time, and eventually at the end, she made it to the front. And to me, that was such a powerful statement. Something else that's kind of topical into the world we're living is the Spanish flu pandemic actually kind of accelerated women's rights, because with people getting sick, women that were typically deemed as delicate or feminine were now forced to take work roles, and that made these men who thought, oh, they can't vote because they're unintelligent, see that woman actually, held value. So pandemics do something right sometimes, guys. So then we get to what a lot of people think is the end of the suffragette movement, which is 1920, when the 19th Amendment was passed. And that basically said women could vote, but then a lot of laws were put in place that would keep women of color from not voting. So for example, Native American people and Native American women weren't given citizenship until 1924. So obviously there were these laws that you had to be a citizen to vote. but even when they did earn citizenship, it was kind of like the literacy test thing going on. It was kind of like the poll test going on. There were still laws that kept them from voting up until 1948. In 1943, the same thing was kind of happening to Chinese Americans until that point, because a lot of Chinese people immigrated to the United States, and a lot of them found work there. And up until 1943, they didn't have citizenship, so they weren't allowed to vote. And then finally, 45 years after the 19th Amendment, which so many people deem to be the end of suffragettes and the end of women needing to fight for voting, is the Voting Rights Act, which was basically passed, and it prohibited racial discrimination. And if you look at my timeline, I put ... after it, because in actuality, there is still a lot of discrimination when it comes to voting, but that comes in voter suppression, which we will be talking about later. So I decided to just leave it open. But that's all of the research that I did. I have a document with a lot of this information organized that I will be sharing with everybody. I'll be sharing this image. And I also found a really interesting pamphlet that was like made by some random white men in the South that were like, this is why women shouldn't vote. And something else that I just thought about that I thought was really interesting was actually Wyoming in 1869 began to let women to vote. But the reason that they let women vote wasn't because, oh, they thought women have value. It was that there was 6,000 men in Wyoming and 1,000 women in Wyoming. So the men were so lonely that they thought maybe if we give women a right here that they don't have in other places, that they'll all come here and settle down and marry us. So it's crazy though.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was the environment of the time. Great.
Yo, why didn't it? Well, you already asked. Yeah, I don't know why they ain't let women vote. Like, why society ain't want women to vote for real?
Well, it was kind of like what I was speaking about when it comes to the Spanish flu. A lot of men just assumed that women didn't know anything, so that was part of it. And even before, when they did have the rights to vote, it was kind of like, you can only vote if your husband died, or you can only vote if you have taxes. So even when the early stages, when they did have that right, they didn't really have the right. It was always affiliated with a man.
Right.
I think it's a significant thought that every single person on this screen would not have had the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think deeply about that, there's not a single person I'm looking at, including myself, that could have voted at the formation of the country and throughout many, many years, hundreds.
Right.
First of all, I want to say thank you guys for starting us off with that research. It's awesome. And we will make all that available on our site. I wanted to throw something out to you all. That when you start thinking about your work, the title of the event is The Long History of Sacrifice, which we've gotten a taste of the general atmosphere of. Our direct link to those who put their bodies on the line for the right to vote. So I'd like to invite you to find out who they were, okay? Because there was so much courage and bravery out there in the history of this country that it could be interesting to learn about, especially like what Jamie is pointing out. I'm reading a lot, like in the New York Times, I'm noticing the Washington Post has a very interesting series right now of the women's movement for the right to vote. And they've been saying that everybody thinks of, Susan B. Anthony, she was the one, but there were a lot of African-American women at that time who were truly struggling and fighting for the right to vote. And they're lifting their voices and their names up now in this series in the Washington Post. So there's a lot of people out there in our history of our country that looks like this group that sacrificed a lot. So I invite you to get to know them and then help us get to know them as well, and see what kind of inspiration they can give you toward November 3rd, and that we can, through your work, give to others. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And also the interesting thing, you know, which is that we are going to look, as Jamie said, at suppression in 2020 in September. But there is, of course, there's a real link between the sacrifices that people made and why, and the fact that even when they were legally given the vote, they weren't able to take it. So that is suppression as well. So obviously there's a connection between those. I wanted to talk about something. Here it is. I wanted to talk briefly about the purpose of this project beyond our gathering, which is deeply inspiring, and about growing it in terms, this is the activism part. We have a very strong presence, and this is an open discussion I'm having with you all. We have a very strong presence of Maryland-based young adult voters, mostly from Towson, but not exclusively. Yeah, go Tigers. I think it's Tigers, right? It's Tigers, isn't it? Okay, I only worked there one semester, so I'm trying to remember. But I'm really very interested, and I'm asking for your help in your thinking process to how we can expand this project to include young adults, artists and non-artists at the live events from other states, so that we can share this work, and how we can also find a way to get these activist packets in the hands of people that can hold their own events in the future. So that's something I just want to put out into your minds, and also ask you kindly if when we get to August 30th, everyone could commit to bringing 3 people, 2 people, 2, 3 people. We will double or triple our exposure and our community right now, just from this group, which would be brilliant. So that's kind of what I wanted to just point out, was that is the building of community. And the last thing that I wanted to say was that, you know, when we get to questions, I of course want to answer them, but if a question doesn't arise now, or you feel awkward about it for some reason, I'm full of answers. They're not necessarily the right ones, but I have, you know, I will give you what I know. But in all kidding aside, I do want to help you realize any work that you want to do and deepen your understanding of the 4 pillars on that application. I've spent lots of personal time with Prince, I have to say. And so he and I have a good, he took advantage of my Zoom session that I had. I will have an open Zoom session. So it was me and Prince for an hour. So there was a lot of good work done there. Anyway, I'm here for you. That's all I'm basically saying. That's it. So any thoughts you have on what I just put out, and any questions you have, let's go for that. Yes, Charlotte.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about kind of expanding beyond Maryland. I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, and I go to school in DC, and people are very keen on voting rights at my college. So I'm more than happy to share, and hopefully that will bring in more people as much as I can.
That's perfect, Charlotte. Thank you. Are you in Rhode Island now?
Yeah, I am. Unfortunately, my school went online, but I still have DC connections.
Good. Great. That's perfect. Thank you. Really good. And that's I mean, I think that is a big thing too. The reason you're all here is because we contacted you. And I think it is personal connections that build community in a healthy way. Sammy's father is from Rhode Island, so that's a really cool thing. Good. Do you guys have any other thoughts or questions about the presentation that my colleagues made while I was in session with Prince? I mean, are we all clear on the 4 pillars? Are they making sense in terms of this work? And oh my gosh, look, there's a ladybug. It just fell down from my ceiling. That's good luck for our project. If I can get her, I will show her to you. So can you see her? Let's see. Oh, she's fallen off. What I'm saying is, oh, she's gone. What I'm saying is that the question is like, and I just want to be clear about this, that all of those pillars are to activate in yourself and activate in us, right? So that exchange is what deepens our experience of being human beings together in that moment of sharing, and hopefully beyond. So what I'm going to be doing is I've taken all the artwork from the last event and made mini videos, which we will be passing out. Those of you here who made art will tag you and you can share it. So they're just like very 3 to 4 minute videos of just focused on the one artist and the project. So that's a tool that we can all use as well to share, and that you can celebrate the work that you've already done, which is really great. And for those of you who don't know, our final event, my intention, we'll see that we can make this happen, is November 3rd, which will be Election Day. On Election Day, there are certain states that are going to have extraordinarily long lines, some of them purposeful. So my thought is that we will be live streaming for at least somewhere between 5 and 8 hours that day. We will share all the artwork that is created here and interview all the artists that are wanting to participate. But in addition to that, I'm going to put out a call to artists, which I hope that you'll help me elevate, who are willing to go to the lines and with totally safe distance protocol, use their art to inspire people while they are waiting online, and then check in with us live stream and tell us how it's going, so that we can really have a sense that we are in this together. We're using art to inspire the vote that day, the celebration that we are Americans that are standing on the sweat, blood, and tears of many people who have worked, sacrificed so much so that every single person here can vote. And that now, today in 2020, we're going to take a stand as artists and citizens of this country, that it is our day and it's our voice. So that's where we're all headed. So the more the merrier as we get there. That's all I have to say. Carrington, Caitlin, Khalifa, Jamie, you have anything else to say? Anybody else have anything to say?
Not really, but if you don't follow us already on social media, you can do that at Our Voice Our Day on Instagram, at Our Voice Our Day on Facebook. We have a page. We have a TikTok that may be used soon. It's Our Voice Our Day. We're all too scared to make a TikTok, but we'll see. And then we also have a Twitter that I believe is Our Voice _Our Day. So if you want to follow us on any of those, you can see some resources, you can see some of the old art, and there's always going to be direct links there on how to get to our website, which is theglobaltheaterproject.org. And right when you go there, you'll see our page right in the front.
Yeah. So I'll be sending you guys an email, and I will hold an open Zoom session at which, you guys can just pop in and say, I'm working on this project. I just have this thought, or I have a real question about how I can incorporate this pillar in this a little bit more actively. And I'll be there for you, hanging out with my dog. Okay. So that's great. I think that's I'm going to say goodbye to the live stream. Shout out to all of you going on to, yes.
Yeah, my phone keeps blowing up. So many people are going to follow us right now. Thanks,
I just followed you on Twitter.
Good. All right. It's great seeing you all and meeting some of you. And, you know,
Rise.
yeah, this is really cool. This is awesome.